Hola, ¿cómo están todos? Muy buenas tardes. Bienvenidos. Vamos a dar un minutito más para que se terminen de sumar todos y comenzamos.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Bueno, muy bien, vamos a comenzar para que nos dé el tiempo completo para que Steve pueda tener toda su sesión. Muy buenas tardes por estar aquí. Mi nombre es Claudia Ponce, yo soy gerente de educación en IAB México y les doy la más cordial bienvenida a esta segunda semana de EduLife, correspondiente a gestión de media digital. Agradecemos a nuestro media partner invitado, que es Neocomunicaciones. Es un placer que nos hayan acompañado durante todo este mes de educación. Y pues antes que nada quiero agradecer a Easy por formar parte del directorio de oferta educativa digital. Este directorio pues es un proyecto de industria que reúne a las principales instituciones y plataformas que tienen una oferta educativa digital, y ese es el caso de Easy. El día de hoy se suman con una masterclass. Esta masterclass se llama After COVID-19, Rebuilding a Better Future of Work. Les quiero platicar un poquito más sobre Easy. Easy es un ecosistema digital internacional dedicado a la educación, talento, emprendimiento y ayuda social, que impulsa la digitalización y mejora la competitividad de individuos y organizaciones, formando a profesionales, apoyando a emprendedores digitales y ayudando a empresas a su transformación digital. En Easy forman a profesionales, forman empresas, forman emprendedores para que alcancen su potencial, se conviertan en agentes de cambio y sean parte activa de los recurrentes cambios en los negocios digitales. Quiero agradecer también a Jorge Pedrero, que es Head of Talent de Easy, el haber gestionado toda esta sesión. Nos estará acompañando el día de hoy. Y pues quiero presentarles a Steve Cardigan. Él es nuestro ponente el día de hoy. La sesión va a ser en inglés. Les voy a presentar a Steve en español para que tengan su perfil. Él es founder de Cardigan Talent Ventures. Steve Cardigan es un asesor de talentos solicitado por líderes y organizaciones de todo el mundo. Como fundador de su propia firma con sede en Silicon Valley, Cardigan Talent Ventures, Steve asesora a una amplia gama de organizaciones innovadoras que incluyen Twitter, Eventbrite, Cisco, Intel, entre otros. Y antes de lanzar su propia empresa, Steve trabajó como ejecutivo de recursos humanos durante más de 25 años en una amplia gama de empresas e industrias, incluida Spirit, Allianz, Cisco Systems, Electronic Arts, y se desempeñó como primer CHRO para LinkedIn desde 2009 hasta 2012, transformando LinkedIn de una empresa privada de 400 empleados a la potencia que es hoy reconocida. Steve está a punto de terminar su primer libro, que se publicará este otoño, y se centra justamente en el futuro del trabajo y lo que significa para los empleadores y empleados. Steve se graduó de Wesleyan University con una licenciatura en Historia y recibió una maestría en Desarrollo Organizacional de la Universidad de San Francisco. Dear Steve, it's a really honor that you be with us here in IAB, virtually in Mexico, of course. Welcome to EduLife, and camera and microphone all over yours.
Gracias, Claudia, and bienvenidos a todos. Thank you so much for joining today's masterclass. I'm sitting in San Diego right now. I can see Mexico, and my family, we love to go just across the border for dinner in Baja many, many times. So I look forward to the time when we can come visit many of you who are in Mexico City and and other places. You have a very beautiful country. I am going to put some slides together to share for you so that I can use them to tell my story for you around building a better future of work. And good news is I had a friend translate all my slides into Spanish. So hopefully, since I don't speak Spanish, I trusted my friend to do this well. And hopefully we can get through it. I want to start by telling you a little bit of my story, because whenever I hear someone speak, I want to understand where are they seeing the world from. Because when we think of the future of work, we think about the future where someone has been is going to inform how they see the future, obviously. And Claudia mentioned these are some of the companies I've worked for over my life, but I also grew up in South Africa. I have worked in the US most of my career, but also spent 2 years in Canada and 2 years in Singapore and 4 years in Canada, and mostly at big companies until I joined a startup in Silicon Valley, LinkedIn. I'll tell you a little bit about that story. But in the last 10 years, I've built my own business, and I joined the faculty of ISDI, ISD, which is helping sponsor this session for you today, which is one of the most dynamic learning institutions that I think is around in the world today. And we have a great group of teachers and professors, all who are like you, are working in the world of work and seeing all the transformation that's happening. So in my work today, I feel very lucky that I have a chance to work with some amazing organizations around the world. Everything from professional football, Manchester United, to big software companies like Salesforce and Google, and also some media companies like the BBC, or video game companies like the company that made Candy Crush, as well as some traditional banks. And I sit as an advisor. I do a lot of consulting work and helping companies think about people strategies. How do we hire, engage, inspire people today? And why that's so different today compared to recent years. It's totally different. And the pandemic has made it even more challenging. So as we go through here today, if you have an idea, a question, we have a lot of time at the end of the session to take your questions and have a good discussion, especially if we have a relatively small audience like it looks like we have, which will be great. Take advantage of a smaller group to have some good discussion. But if you want to put a note in the chat, and feel free, if you want to, it's easier for you to put it in Spanish, that's fine, or an idea that makes sense to you or something that doesn't make sense to you, thinking about how we build a strategy to grow our business, to grow our teams, to address a highly uncertain future of work. Now, as I mentioned, I had about 4 amazing years at LinkedIn, and this gentleman here, Reid Hoffman, was the founder, the chairman of LinkedIn. And one day he was asked a question early when we were building the company. And the business leader asked the question, they said, Reid, this LinkedIn business model is very unique. Like, who's your biggest competitor? Who do you worry in the world of competition for your business? You have a recruiting business, you have a business that's partially subscription. You know, who's your biggest competitor? Who worries you the most? And his answer to me is so great at explaining the crazy world of work we lived in. He said, I worry more about a company that hasn't been created yet. That worries me because companies can grow fast today and they can change the paradigm. And we could talk about all those businesses. And in your industry, you're seeing this transformation of information and access to information. But Reid said, I worry about a company that could create a new paradigm game changer, like an Airbnb, like an Uber, like a Slack, like a Facebook, like Apple changed music and changed movies, and Amazon changed shopping, and they can come out of nowhere. So in this world where your competition may not even exist, how do you think about building a business plan? What kind of people should we have, and how should we run our business in a world where the competition can come fast and it could be a paradigm game changer really quickly? And so that's what has inspired me the last 10 years of my life to think about how do we think about the world today? And to start, I want to just tell you a little bit about my journey at LinkedIn, because as I said, I was mainly working in big companies most of my career until I joined this startup LinkedIn. And when I joined, it was 4 years old. There were 400 employees. And 4 years later, we had 4,000, 400 to 4,000. And we went from just a few countries to 25 countries, just a few offices to many offices. And it was incredible. And it was a game changer for me in terms of how I think about business today, on so many levels. It was incredible. For me, it was an incredible experience. And to grow a company and hire that many people when you are in the shadow of Google, and Google's paying more, and there's sexy offices and beautiful buildings, and you have old offices and ugly buildings, and you can't pay what they pay. How do you get them to work for you? That was a challenge, but we did it. And we grew in many countries and many oficinas. And every year I was there, we doubled the size of the company people, and we doubled the size of the revenue. And that led us to have still what's considered today to be one of the most successful IPOs in technology in the last 20 years. And, I scratch my head having gone through that experience, because how do you build value when everybody's new? How do you build value when your company is different every week and every month? New people, new ideas, new processes, new practices, new organization structures. It was really kind of an insane ride. And I didn't have gray hair. Now I have a lot of gray hair, but as part of that adventure, but it really was, to me, opportunity of a lifetime. I got to go IPO. I got to go to the New York Stock Exchange the day we went public. And when they took this photo, I don't know if you noticed, I'm the only person with the mouth open. Oh, and so my mother says, Steve, your mouth is always open. I knew that since you were a baby. So she's still made fun of me, but this was an incredible journey just to give birth to your company, to the world. And the hair still rises on my skin when I remember that moment. So wherever you are in your business journey, your organization journey today, I learned something from that I want to share with you. If you were an investor back in 2011 when we went public, and you looked at the company, you looked at LinkedIn, who are the leaders? Should we expect that they will have a good, successful future? Your answer would be no. No, you wouldn't think that. Our CEO had never been a CEO before. First time CEO. Every leader, including me, was managing more people than we ever managed in our life. The most people before LinkedIn I ever managed on my team was maybe 20. I'm managing 175 recruiters and human resource people in all kinds of countries I'd never met before. And nobody in our company had ever run a recruiting business. We'd run software businesses, and people had run subscription businesses and advertising and marketing, and we had a lot of good skill. Our CFO never took a company public. So we had no business in one way to prove to anyone we were going to be successful. But we were successful. We were wildly successful. So was that luck? I don't think so. Our business was way more complicated than even Google's business today. Google's business and Facebook's business is mainly advertising revenue. We had hardly any advertising revenue. We had a free business subscription. We had recruiting. We had sales. We had a marketing business. It was complex. Never saw the spike of growth. We just saw increment over time. But the message I want to give with you, just because you've never been world-class or had an incredibly successful experience doesn't mean you can't do it. You can do it. And what the message I felt experience was, because we'd never done it before, we were so hungry. Because we'd never done it before, we wanted to do something amazing. That's what we knew. And that inspired us. And also, because we never done it, we didn't know what we shouldn't do. Does that make sense? We didn't know the rules are supposed to be like this. We didn't know. So we just created. And we wanted to build an amazing company. And that's what I wish for you. That's part of what in this chapter of my life now, I want other people to take that lesson and say, you can build something amazing. And just because you never did doesn't mean you can't. And I will tell you, though, that the biggest reason I think we succeeded is because we discovered that our mission as a business was the same as our mission for our employees. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, because we couldn't hire people against Google and Facebook and Twitter and Groupon and Apple and Zing and all these incredible companies in our neighborhood in Silicon Valley, people paying more money, people have more sexy offices and beautiful facilities and free food and on-site childcare. We didn't have those. But what we did realize we had was something that became more powerful than that. We realized that the problem we are solving was more significant, more meaningful than anything all those companies were solving. We're helping people find their dream jobs. We're helping your children find a beautiful career, beautiful life. So you can go to Facebook and help people pay attention to a false reality and help your children not do their homework at Facebook, or you can come to LinkedIn and help people find their dream job. You could be engineer number 7,000 over Google and work on something you don't even understand, or you can come here and be engineer number 5 and build something amazing. But what we were doing on the outside, helping our customers find their dream job, was the same thing we're doing on the inside, helping our employees make this their dream job. Outside mission, inside mission, the same. That's powerful, because then everyone understands, why are we here? We're here for career transformation. And we made our culture our competitive advantage. The first 6 years of LinkedIn, everyone we hire, I promise you, took less money to work for us. We didn't have the money because we sold a mission. We sold the problem. We got people to believe, and it was true. That problem was worth solving, and it's still worth solving, helping people find great fulfillment and joy through their many hours they spend working. What could be more important outside of your family? But we made culture a competitive advantage. So that gave me big belief. So when you think about the world today, building your company today, and even from 10 years ago when LinkedIn went public in 2011, now it's 2021. When you think about the world of work, I would like to ask you to go to the chat for a minute and tell me, of these 4 choices that you have, which words describe your feeling about the future of work? Are you very confused? Is it beautiful? Is it amazing? What words for you best describe the future of work right now? I'm curious. So if you would go into the chat and share that with me so we can see what you're thinking for a minute.
Steve, do you want that I read the answers?
Sure. I'm trying to see if I can see the chat. Hang on. If I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Abigail is number 1, beautiful, happy, successful. Jorge, number 2, confusion, unknown.
Well, just read, Claudia, just which number is coming up the most?
Okay.
Would you say?
Number 2.
Number 2, confusion.
Confusion.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by that. And that is pretty consistent. And there's many reasons why technology is advancing, digital transformation is advancing. Our ability to be certain about the future is less than it's ever been before. And that feels uncomfortable. So let's go and talk for a minute around information and data and facts around what's happening in the world of talent, of people. Overall in the world right now, according to the last survey by Gallup, when they look at employee engagement, the number of people actively disengaged is going up. The number of people who's like, I love my job, I love my work, is going down. And it's interesting to me because today, Candidates have more information to make a good choice about where to work than ever before. In pre-pandemic, we had more choices. Now, because of the pandemic, we have fewer choices. But why are people more unhappy when they have more information to make a better choice of where to work than ever before? That's interesting to me. And think about that. Here's another trend, which is true in every country that I visited in the last 10 years. How long people are staying in an organization is declining. This is United States data, but it trends similar, I would guess, to Mexico, Latin America, and Europe. In the US, it's gone from about 5 years to about 4 years just in the last 7 years. And when we take a look at the age groups, we see something really interesting here. We see people over 50 staying about 10 years in an organization. Now, that's not particularly surprising. When you get older, you have more financial obligations. The older you are, sometimes the less you're excited about change. You have more challenges. So when I put the age group 25 to 35 up next, what number do you think to be? If the 4 point, and I'm showing you over 10, what that's going to be? 2.8 years. Median is 2.8 years. That means half of those people are staying less. In Silicon Valley, if you stay in an organization for 3 years, they have a celebration. If you stay 3 months, hey, you're still here. This is amazing. Because it's a career candy store. People have a lot of choice. But the younger generation is not seeing work the same way. They're just not. Because what they can see is different than what used to be able to be seen. And here's the interesting thing. Nobody in Europe, Latin America, North America, and Asia that I speak to think this will change. Nobody thinks, oh, in a few years, Steve, people are going to stay longer. Nobody thinks that. So the first question I have for you is, if you believe this will continue, is it a good strategy to still try to keep all your people a long time? Or should you start to think of a different way to create value when people are probably not going to stay long? I'm the first person. I want to keep my best people. But the data is showing us it's not happening. So maybe we need to come up with a different model and look to places in the world where companies, organizations are building value in a reality where people don't stay very long. Okay? And I'll give you some of those examples. But here's one of the reasons why I think people are leaving companies fast, and one of the reasons why people are disengaged at work. Because both employers and employees have the same problem today. The absolute same problem. Both parties don't know what skills we need for tomorrow. So if I'm in an organization, I know my competition, as Reed said on the second slide I showed you today, my competition can come out of nowhere. I know my competition can come quickly. I know the business I'm in is going to need to change in the future to survive, to thrive. But I don't know exactly what skills I need to be competitive. And similarly, individuals don't know what skills should I learn so that I have the best future. What skills? Because they're changing. We used to be able to go to school, learn a skill, and that would live with us for our whole career. And today, maybe if you're lucky, it'll be 5 or 10 years. And this researcher, John Seeley Brown, studying education, and many other researchers agree with him. And I'm talking hard skill now. I'm talking a technical ability. You used to be able to learn it, and that would be good for you to use your whole career. Now, you're going to have to learn new skills, a lot. And then unlearn the skills that you learned before, because the way to solve a problem requires that you think very, very differently. And that feels hard. And that's not the deal that a lot of people in senior roles, baby boomers, that's not the deal they signed up for. And that's frustrating a lot of workers who've been around. We're like, what? I got to learn new things? No. I just wanted to learn this one. I didn't have my brain ready to think about learning new things to be competitive. And that's very challenging. Now, other forces are at work right now, which I think are causing workers to be dissatisfied. And that is what I call the worst marketing campaign in history, the future of work. We are scaring people. We are. Look out, the robots are coming. They're going to take your job. Watch out. Artificial intelligence is going to replace you. Robots are more important than you are. Oh, we're going to do a digital disruption, digital transformation. Maybe you lose your job. Or the jobs in 5 years don't even exist yet. We are scaring people. We are not making them calm. And I think what we're facing right now is something that I'm calling, I think we're facing a workquake. A workquake. The model of work is broken. The old model is broken. Come here and promise you will stay a long time, and I'll promise I will keep you a long time. Companies, we can't make that promise anymore because we don't know what's happening tomorrow. And I'm not going to promise to stay with you forever because maybe I'll find something better tomorrow. And so we have a very unsatisfying, broken model right now in the world of work. And there are more ways people can make money on their own than ever before too. And that's very true in your industry. A lot of people can just be individual operators and consultants. So how do you build a business when people have more choice? How do you build a business when the skills change? These are the big questions that we need to help understand and try to solve. So let's talk about this for a minute. One of the reasons that people are changing jobs so fast, I believe, is that because what job security means has changed. It used to be job security means staying in one place a long time. That's what was valued. You stay longer, we trust you more, we pay you more, you feel safe, and that's good. Today, I think feeling safe and job security means you move. It's shifted from being stationary to movement. And think about that for a second. The more you move, the more new people you meet, the more new businesses that you can learn, maybe the better you are to build your base to be successful in the future. Maybe. And maybe we have underestimated that in an uncertain world, look at the pandemic. Many of us had to let employees go. Many companies had to let a lot of people go. Some businesses shut down. So there's no promises. In the economic recession of 2008, the banking crisis, many companies went under, many people lost their homes and lost their savings. Nothing is sure. So employees are taking control of their future. They're taking control of their reality and they're saying, I want to own my future more than ever before. And so that's a big shift. Safety used to be being stationary, and now people are starting to feel the longer I stay in one place, the more vulnerable I feel. And that's very powerful when we think about the future. Because every big company that I know, they're all designed to promise to keep you a long time and expect you to stay a long time. They're not built to expect, okay, maybe you stay a year or 2 years and then we're going to hire someone new. They're not built like that. In the technology world that I work in, that is how people are seeing it. We're preparing here in Silicon Valley for people to leave and not stay very long time. In the US, as I said, the younger workforce is staying a median amount of 2.8 years. I would say in Silicon Valley, it's maybe 1.8 to 2. Yeah, incredibly competitive. And so the psychology of workers is shifting. And I think if you want to attract people, I think you need to promise something different than you can work here a long time. I think what the workforce wants is to know, I will work for you if you make me better. I'll work for you if you grow me, if you invest in me, you make me more vital for the future. That's what I think the workforce wants, because that is security. What is job security in the future? It's knowledge. It's being able to constantly learn and do new things. So Claudia, if you can help me with this one too. We've got another poll question here. For people, those of you that have employees right now, what problems are on their minds? What concerns do they have mostly right now? I'm curious to hear what you have to say. And then once again, Claudia, when we have a few answers come in, just let me know what is the most.
Number 4, many fours. Some number 2.
So people really looking for growth.
2, compensation, salary, pay, benefits.
Yeah.
2, some 4, Steve.
2 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Claudia. And you know what's interesting? 2 and 4 are connected. You know, the more knowledge you have, maybe the more opportunity you have to earn more compensation, you know? And why do you want 4? You want to grow so that you can earn more. So it's not a surprise. We probably could have put up 15 different potential answers for people. So, okay. All right. Let's go back to we're driving the bus. Okay. This is one of my favorite slides here because it's very colorful. No, not because it's colorful. It's one of my favorite slides because it gets at the point of how do we create value when people don't stay a long time? Let me share with you my experience at LinkedIn. When I was at LinkedIn for 4 years, we went from 400 to 4,000 people. So the average tenure for me was 9 months. When we looked at all my employees in 2012, we looked at every employee, the median tenure right there was 9 months. 9 months. And we created a company worth $26 billion. So I wonder if what we were really building at LinkedIn is what these companies are building. They're building a culture of change. You see that? They're building a company where you don't have to work a long time to make a difference. You can make a difference right away, you know? And that's fascinating to me. Facebook, Google, Oracle, Apple, Amazon, Twitter, Microsoft, Airbnb. The median length of time people are staying is under 2 years. What? Now, that's okay. That's just one bit of data. And the data could be skewed when you're growing your company fast, your tenure is going to come down because you have a lot of new people that only have been there a day. And Microsoft surprised me. I thought it would be more, but Microsoft has bought a lot of companies. And so when they buy a company, you start at 0. And so maybe their number's low. And it also includes contractors. So not employees, but someone who's just a temporary for a period of time. So, but this is interesting to me. Maybe we overestimate or overvalue people staying a long time. And in cultures of change, I will tell you, and I didn't have this before LinkedIn, in cultures of change, something very powerful is happening. People have energy. I want you to all ask yourself a question right now. Simple question. You don't have to write this in the chat, but ask yourself, in your career journey, when have you had the most energy? When you're working on the same thing for a long period of time, or when you're doing something new? I think it's when you're doing, right? When you're doing something new, it's a little scary. That's what's happening in these companies. They're growing, they're getting into new markets, they're bringing on new people. There is a lot of energy. And then when there's a lot of new people and new things going on, I could learn new projects, I could work on new things, I could meet new people. I'm stimulated. I'm excited. And when I'm not doing new things, I'm getting bored. I'm getting unproductive, generally speaking, okay? So there's a lesson here. So a few months ago, I showed this slide to a very, very big multinational company in Colombia, in Bogota. And they said, well, Steve, you know, that works in technology companies, but what about our big business? And I said, okay, well, let's look at another big business. I said, let's take a look at, I don't know, maybe the automobile industry. Big business, right? Big projects, big factories, producing big cars. What auto company is worth more than any auto company today? Tesla. Are they selling more? No. Are they making more profit? No. Why do investors value that company more than Ford, Honda, and Toyota combined? And those three companies, Ford, Honda, Toyota, been around more than 100 years, probably, all of them. How can they be worth less together when they should be experts at what they do? And they've perfected this for years and years and years. Why is Tesla worth more than all of them combined? Why? Because I think they built a culture of change. They hired people not from the auto industry. Yeah, they hired people who are rocket scientists, who are looking at the problem differently. Maybe that's a lesson for you and your business. Are you only hiring people from your industry? Have you ever brought someone in from a different industry and wow, they see the world differently and maybe they see something you didn't see? And Tesla, I mean, maybe they're not even an auto company. And that's the interesting thing. Maybe they're an energy company. Maybe they're just a transportation business. They see their work differently. And I think this is a problem many of us have in our work, in our companies, that we think only people that are in our industry know our industry. Well, guess what? Every industry is becoming a technology industry, and you need to have competitive technical advantage. And that's why I work at ISDI with Jorge, because we know competitive advantage is understanding the digital opportunities that you have. And that's why we're excited to be delivering this masterclass with you, because I believe that fact that you're here, you're learning, you're wanting to grow is an incredible step for you and your organization and your path and your company's path. We're at a new dawn. It's super interesting.
Dear Steve, sorry, we have a question in the chat.
Okay, great.
I think it's about 2 slides back. The question is this line of association the same of leadership position in these companies?
We don't know. We don't have access to the information. My suspicion is leaders probably are staying longer. My suspicion, probably, that would probably be my guess. And there are people in these businesses who've been there 10 years or 12 years, but most of these companies haven't been around 20 years. Uber, Snap, Airbnb, Twitter, Facebook, not even 20 years old. It's interesting. But anyway, good question. And Claudia, if there are other ones, keep jumping in like that. That's helpful because I can't see the chat box. So I want to frame something for you here that I believe that traditionally, as I said, we used to value people staying a long time. We used to value loyalty. And I think today the worker is more loyal to their knowledge, to their learning. And so if you want, and here's the paradox, if you want to keep someone a long time, you have to make them better and make it easier for them to leave, but you have to grow them. Not prevent them from growing, you have to grow them if you want them to stay. And that's a powerfully hard step for leaders who've never done that before. And I used to be that leader. I used to be, why would I pay for you to go to school? Because if you go to school, I know you're going to leave. So why would I pay for that? And now I look at it like they're going to leave anyway. So, and if I invest in them, maybe they'll come back someday, or maybe they'll refer people to me, or maybe they'll be a positive person in my universe. It's a different perspective. So that's the world of work. Those are some of the big shifts that I see. Okay. And I'm not here to tell you, okay, that slide that I did earlier, this slide here, this is always the one that people go, what? I'm not here to tell you that you should be comfortable with people leaving fast. I'm not here to say it's right. I'm here to say all these technology companies are super smart. They're not. They make a lot of mistakes. I'm just telling you, I think we can create value. These are crazy environments. Even if the leaders are staying longer, their staff's not. And so how do you create value in a very fluid, fast-paced environment? It's very different. And I think we're silly, we're foolish if we believe that, I'm going to find the people only that are going to stay a long time. That's just inefficient thinking. That's not being bright. If you do say, I think people are going to leave faster, how do I build a value system that makes people better for tomorrow? And if I do grow them, I think they will stay longer. So that's, and then the pandemic has come in the last almost a year and a half now. And it's created a whole bunch of interesting new dynamics. One of our founders at ISD University, Nacho, he and I are talking all the time, and we can never talk enough about the future of work. And he's a mentor and a friend of mine for a long time. And he says this expression, which I believe, the new normal is never normal. That's what Reid Hoffman was saying in the question I showed you on the second slide. Who's your biggest competitor? They don't exist yet. That's the new normal. We're in a new reality. And if you're doing talent strategies from the old reality, that doesn't make sense. We need to upgrade our talent reality to something new. I was speaking to a few reporters recently around this new world in the United States right now, and I'm not as clear how this is affecting you as business leaders, as citizens in Mexico. But in the United States right now, we have more people leaving companies than ever before, faster, and they just resigned. Like in the last 4 months, we've been tracking people who are voluntarily leaving to do another company, to do another job, to do something different. It's bigger than it's ever been. They did many surveys have revealed 40% of the workforce is looking to do something totally different. The pandemic has reshaped our view of the world. Some people are burnt out. Some people like working from home and they will never go back to an office. They say, I would rather quit than go back to an office. Some people don't miss the commute. Some people really want to go back. Some people, since they lost their job, learned new skills and said, I'm going to try something different. 50% of the working population in America works in a restaurant, a hotel, or retail. And those sectors closed during the pandemic, and they're having a hard time rehiring people. There's no shortage of labor, but the labor that was doing those jobs is not wanting to go back. Maybe they learned a new skill. Maybe they took the time to try something new. They were forced to see the world differently. I've been working from home for 10 years, but I love working from home more because I was cooking meals for my children more. I fell in love with cooking. I don't want to give that up. Everyone's world vision has changed, and we're just starting to see the same thing. And here's the interesting thing in the United States, and I'm curious to hear from you when we get to the discussion, if you're seeing it too, that the pandemic for big organizations has created a really interesting challenge. Big companies' recruiting strategy used to be, I need to convince you that joining my company is right for you. Now, when people, especially knowledge worker, they have more choice, they have more opportunity. Now, the big companies have to say, tell me about your journey so I know whether my company is right for your journey. Companies are having to understand the life-changing reality for people because that's important. But I believe, and I wrote this down and I put articles out and I created videos 2 weeks ago. I said, we are going to see the biggest career migration in history in the next 2 to 3 years. Everyone's looking at their world differently. Everyone. And some people are even changing countries. Yeah. I have a friend of mine in the US. He says, I'm moving to Portugal. The taxes are better. The schooling's better. The cost of the healthcare is better. I don't like how, I can't get those opportunities here. So I'm going to a different place. That's powerful. And we're just starting to see those changes play out. So I look at all this. I look at the world of work before the pandemic. I look at what the pandemic has created, and we are still in it right now. And I look at this as a leadership moment. This is where I want to start, giving you ideas to help you be better leaders and to help you navigate in your own journey with your own organization. And the first thing that I want to express to you is an expression that we have in English called cognitive dissonance, when two things don't fit, okay? And so the cognitive dissonance is we used to build businesses for stability, for consistency, for predictability. And today, we need to build businesses for instability. That doesn't make me feel comfortable to have to say that. I'm not comfortable with that reality. I don't love it, but I believe that to be true. If you look at the world today, we have a pandemic. Maybe we're going to have something different. Maybe there's going to be a new strain of the virus. Maybe there's going to be an economic recession. Maybe the political turmoil, like in dealing with in Colombia, is going to destabilize society. I don't know, but I need to build for instability. I need people and a structure and an organization that even if things get unstable, we're going to be okay. And that doesn't feel comfortable. I got to admit it. You know, Claudia said, I said, Claudia, I'm not going to have a lot of comfortable things to say. She says, that's okay. We want new ideas. So this is where we're at. The world is uncomfortable. So I want to talk about how comfortable you feel right now. And so this is the last poll. Take a chance, if you will, please. And, you know, compared to 5 years ago, what words, like, where are you? You the same? You're saying, are you more excited, more optimistic? Or are you like, oh boy, this is not going well? Like, how do you feel?
Okay, we have 3, 2,
About the same? Yeah.
more 1, another 1. Let me see. Yes, I think.
Whoopsie.
Between 1 and 2. It's confused.
Okay. Okay.
Half.
So pretty split. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's never. I've never asked this question and had a even, you know, or a completely one standout. It's kind of mixed. We're all in a different place. So what does this all mean? Like, ¿qué significa? You know, what is going on here, and what does it all mean? So just like I shared on a few slides ago, you know, we have to build for instability, and we also have to realize that the more adaptable we are, the more employees we have that are adaptable, the more our company will be adaptable, the more likely we're going to survive. And let me share with you an interesting perspective. When we were building LinkedIn, our CEO, Jeff Weiner, said something which I think is really, really powerful. He said, you know, we're not going to win because we have the best product today. We're going to win because we're going to be able to move faster when the seas and the oceans change than our competition. That's how we're going to win. That we learn something new, we see some new insights, we see a competitive threat, or we see a trend that we can do, and we have to move to it. That's how we're going to win. And I believe that to be true in the economy today, that the winners in the future of work are going to be the organizations that can adapt the most. Not the strongest, the ones that can adapt the most. And that sometimes is hard because we don't want to stop doing something that we built. There's something that took a long time, lots of energy, lots of money. Don't want to change that. I just invested my last 5 years of my life doing that. Now I got to do something different. Yeah, we have to. We have to do it differently. Think about the restaurant world right now. The restaurant world, particularly and I haven't been to Mexico. I did sneak into Cancun twice during the pandemic, but don't tell anybody. But the restaurant world now is mostly about delivery. Yeah. And all the companies that deliver are taking the margin from the restaurants. Now, it's still about making good food, but that's not the business they were in. A nice restaurant, a nice location, a nice menu. People come here. We have good wine, good tequila, good mezcal. Now, nobody can come into the restaurant. I have to get the restaurant out there, the food out to the houses. And for me to do that, is managing a business I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do transportation. I don't know how to keep my food warm and fresh and safe and get it delivered so my customers are going to like it. The restaurants that are going to survive the pandemic are the ones that could adapt to delivery. Yeah. And they didn't hire delivery people in their company. And I'm not saying they should have hired delivery companies, but anyone who maybe saw the future saw I could sell more food if I can deliver that food to other places. And pizza, the pizza companies were the first ones to figure this out years ago. And guess what restaurant business, what food has done the best during the pandemic? Pizza. Yeah. Because they figured it out. Question.
A question, and this is a very interesting question. If what we need to build organizations that adapt, how does the organizational culture needs to be? What attribute should this culture have?
You came to the right place because that's the rest of my presentation. Let me answer it a little bit here, and then I'll have some examples for you of companies and industries that are doing this. I think, again, go back to what I said earlier around adaptability is key. And I think we can't like bring in a professor of adaptability. That's not how you teach adaptability in your organization. What you do is you design work differently. You say, instead of doing the same job all the time, you're going to do, maybe one week here and 1 week here. Or you're going to go rotate 1 month. You're going to work in a different part of the team. You're going to work on a different challenge. You're going to make your team learn new things and do different tasks. And that may feel hard. It may feel complicated. It may feel not easy, but that adaptation and that movement is going to feed the energy that people have to learn new things. Okay. So let me come back to that in a little bit because I have a few companies and industries I want to share with what they're doing to build adaptability. But first, I want to go back and take the conversation up a level, which is when things are hard right now. The pandemic is still hard. I have many good friends in the university in Mexico City, and it's hard still. It's hard for our families, hard for our children. It's hard for us. But when we go back and we say, well, what happened the last time things were really hard? Well, it was the economic recession of the banking crisis of 2007 and 8. What happened then? Well, it turns out when we look at the unicorns today, billion-dollar valued companies, 30 were born during the last economic recession. 30 of them. What? You say, what? How can it be? Because that's scary. Yeah. It happens that when things are really, really intense, in periods of crisis, actually, those are great periods of innovation. Great periods of looking at problems differently. What happens in a crisis is we slow down. We slow down and we get more intense. We look at the problems a little bit differently, and those spark innovative moments, potentially. So we are going to have some unicorns. We're going to have some unicorns born right now. And I'll give you a little bit of a teaser. In 2020, last year, more new businesses were registered in the United States than at any time in history that we've been measuring new businesses. And you'd say, wow, that's a sign. Yeah, people are looking to go and start to create and do innovative things. So that's very, very interesting to me. And if I take a look at the companies of the future, we got to learn to build adaptability into the work, right? Don't just serve someone, here's a simple task. Serve them a problem. Solve the problem. Don't say do X, Y, Z. Say, I need to create this. Can you figure out how to create it? We need to give people more room in their daily work to learn how to adapt. Challenge them, give them new assignments, move them around, arrange the teams differently. And I'm not saying just work. The way we're going to solve this adaptability challenge of the future is we need to educate children differently. Instead of one teacher going, listen to me, this is how it is, standing in front of a classroom. No, kids teach kids. Groups teach groups. Switch the teachers around. Have several teachers teaching small groups. Like move it all around because that's the world that we work in. Why are we teaching in a model of 1 to 20, 30, 40, 50 students when that's not helping build adaptability? It's growing passive learning. And passive learning is a failed strategy in an active world where there's no time to sit and take a class. You got to learn by doing. And that's a fundamental belief of how we like to teach at ISD through experiences. Give them something new. There's an organization that I'm friendly with in Spain called Osmotic. And Osmotic is a business that takes big company leaders and puts them in a startup and says, go fix the problem. They're like, what? I don't know how to fix the startup problem. Yeah. And at first they're terrified. And then a few months later, they're energized and said, okay, well, go back to the big company now and take that energy and take those new ways of solving problems and go unlock it. I think we need to rebuild differently. And getting towards how do we build a culture of adaptability, it kind of starts here. When we look at what we used to recruit for when we were hiring people in organizations, we used to hire for IQ. You want to hire smart people. Of course you want to hire smart people. Who doesn't want to hire smart people? But then we learned that smart people that nobody likes working with are not good. So we need smart people that people like working with. So let's get EQ with IQ. And today I would argue that I believe we need something even more critical. We need to hire people that have high AQ, high adaptability quotient. And it doesn't translate in Spanish, so maybe high AC, okay? But that's what we need to do. We need to look for that skill. It's the number one skill CEOs are looking for the most when the consulting firm, McKinsey and Bain and Boston Consulting Group and all these consulting companies are looking out there and so forth. It's the number one skill to recruit and develop, right? And I am seeing companies really take this on. And so let me expand on that. If I'm a parent today, and I have 5 children. If I'm a parent today, the most important skill that I want for my kids, and I get asked this all the time, Steve, on television, on radio, on podcasts, Steve, tell us, you're the, talent guru, like what skills should I be teaching my kids, my employees, my population, what should I be building? And I say, I know exactly the skill. I know it. Are you ready for it? I said, but it's not what you think. And the skill is simply the skill of learning quickly. That's the skill. And that's the skill I want in my company because I know what they're doing now is going to change. Now, listen, Claudia mentioned at the beginning, and I told you a little bit about my background. I've been recruiting people for 30 years, okay? Maybe 35 years. I've been recruiting. I've hired thousands of people. Most of my career, I hire based on what experience you had, what skills you have. What I'm starting to see is a really amazing shift, and we're going to see this really grow. People are going to be hired not based on what they know, what they can learn. Most jobs, and think about this, if you've done recruiting recently, you write a job description, right? You write it down, you write the job description down. And then about a month later, the job's totally different. Jobs are changing fast because companies are changing fast. And so what you want is people surrounding you that can learn quickly. And that's why we call it learning velocity. This is the most important skill. And we're going to start to look at that when we see a LinkedIn profile, a CV, a resume. I need to know this person can learn new stuff quickly and teach themselves and be intellectually curious. And there's an expression here that came from an incredible woman named Carol Dweck called growth mindset. Are you just curious? Curious. Are you interested? I have many friends who are old like me, and they say, oh, Steve, companies don't want to hire the old people anymore. And I said, that's not what's happening. I said, companies think maybe true, maybe not true, whether it's real or not, old people can't learn new things. So if you're old and you're thinking no one's going to hire you, prove them wrong. Prove them you can learn fast, that you have high learning velocity. Show that in your profile. Show that in your interview. That's very, 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 very powerful. So, and this is just another way of expressing it. I do believe that, you know, in the world of recruiting, we are going to move from, it's not just what you know, it's really what you can learn. Because I know tomorrow, mañana, my business is going to be different, okay? So I need people who can be different tomorrow. I don't know if any of you worked in a big company before when they say, oh, we're going to go through digital transformation. We're going to have to let all these people go and we're going to hire all these new people with the new skills. Well, that's sending a very bad message when you do that, that you don't know how to grow people, that you hired people that don't know how to grow. And that's not impressive at all. And you're not going to survive in the future. So what are the best practices for today for organizations? You know, obviously a culture of adaptation, and I'll give you some examples of that in a minute. But I was working with a very big food company, and I can't tell you their name except they have a headquarters in Switzerland and they make chocolate. But anyway, you can guess who it is. And they said, Steve, tell us the best practices for work today. Like, should we be hybrid? Should we be work from home? Like, what should it be? And I said, I can't tell you what the best practice is because I don't know your employees. I don't really know your business. You do. So the best practice right now is experimentation. Try it. Try from home. Try hybrid. Try different kinds of hybrid. Try hybrid in different places. I don't know. And then see what environments produce the best outcomes for your staff, for your customers, for creating value. This is what I mean. Like, we have a great chance right now coming out of the pandemic to build something different. And everybody's ready to deal with more change than at any point in their lives. We are all used to doing things differently. And the longer we've been away from doing those different things, the less likely we're going to go back to doing what we did before, right? It's fascinating. You know, sometimes when you take someone out of a department and you put them in somewhere else, and then a month later you put them back, they go right back to doing the way they did before. But if they're out of it for a year, everything's changed. They come back. And what we're finding now, many companies that are coming back together, is the culture we had is not the culture that is there now. Because many people hired people they've never met before. And everyone's coming back a different person. So that's what I mean, experiment. If you have an organization right now that was all apart and now you're together again, you need to communicate more. You need to ask them, how are you doing? What can we do better? What can we do differently? Okay, here's a company that built a different work culture to build adaptability. Spotify. Now, this isn't going to work for all of your companies. It works for them because of their business and because of the kind of jobs that people do in this company. But it may not work for everybody. And that is, they require almost every person to change jobs every 2 years, not leave the company, just do a different role. And the CEO says, we find that people are more energized, that people are more engaged, that people stay longer, that people have more connection and feel part of something because they know we're invested in their growth. Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. There's another big restaurant chain in America called Chipotle. And it's not great Mexican food compared to what you have, but for us, you know, it's okay. And they say, and a restaurant work is not work that many people say, I want to serve food in a restaurant my whole life. No, usually it's, I want to do this while I'm going to school or I'm acting or I have another job. It's a step for somewhere else. So they know people are not going to stay here forever. They know it. And what they said is, we're going to pay for your schooling. We're going to pay for you to finish your college or finish your high school or finish your degree. We will pay you. And if you leave, you don't have to pay it back. They know people are going to leave, and they know they're going to get the better people. The people who are motivated to go to school, they're probably motivated to do good work. And we think we're going to get better people. And we know even if they leave, that investment of their education is going to pay us back. That's what I call enlightened engagement. Super, super interesting. Now, here are two companies that have taken a really radical approach to culture during the pandemic. And their approach came out of a number of things that have happened in the United States. And, I know you can't help but pay attention to the crazy world that we live in here north of you in the US, but during the Trump era, politics got very nasty. I don't have to tell you that. You've seen your own share of nasty in politics in Mexico. It got nasty. Then we had the George Floyd, bringing the awareness that racism has a long way to go. We have gender equality concerns, women getting paid less than men. Boom. So, and in companies, which is where people spend most of their time, that these two businesses they set a policy. You cannot talk about society at work. Yeah. Basecamp and Coinbase. In here, we talk about work. We don't talk about racism. We're not talking about gender or differences. We're not talking about politics. No, here we're talking about business. What you want to do, if you want to talk about those things outside, do it on the outside. Now, I don't know how you can do that, because if someone's trying to bring their whole self to work, how do I bring my whole, if I'm concerned about racial discrimination, I'm concerned about politics, how do I not talk about that in my work? So what these companies did is said, they just put the policy in and said, the discussions are getting people so angry and distracted, we are saying you can't have them at work anymore. And then they said, if you don't like that, we'll pay you money to leave. Yeah. And at Basecamp, 30% left. Thank you, we'll take your money, we're out. And the Basecamp story is really interesting because that policy came out of the George Floyd racism concerns in the US. And when the employees went to management and said, hey, there's this thing that we've been doing that if we want to be good citizens in the world, we should probably stop doing. And what it was some employees kept a list together of what they considered to be silly customer names of the customers that they saw that were kind of like, they thought it was funny. So they kept a list together. And as you might guess, some of those names, many people felt were probably African-American names. And they thought, that's really poor taste. We shouldn't do that. And guess who was also in that group? The founders of the company were playing that game. So when that was discovered, instead of the founders saying, hey, yeah, you're right, we should stop doing this, they said, okay, we're no more talking about politics and this racism stuff anymore. What? Interesting. These are what we're seeing in crazy times that we're going through right now. But I want to sort of give you a ray of hope and a ray of opportunity here. And that is, in hard times, it happens that it's the best time for you to build loyalty, for you to build strength and people to respect you. Because when things are really, really hard is when people see what you're made of. And the pandemic has given us that opportunity. I will tell you, for 4 years of my life, I worked on acquisitions at a big tech company called Cisco Systems. And we bought companies all over the world. And it was very intense. And if you've ever been in an acquisition or a merger, you know what I'm talking about. The first thing that happens when you find your company's bought is, do I have a job? Are they going to let me go? Are they going to change my money? Are they going to move the office? Are they going to change my boss? They're going to change my job. It's scary. So nerves are really, really taut, and it's a difficult environment often. And what we found I worked on over 50 of these acquisitions in 4 years. We found that this is an exercise of building trust. And when something goes wrong, if we fixed it quickly, we could build trust. So we didn't want things to go wrong, but every acquisition, something would go wrong and say, hey, you're lying to us. And we're like, where did we lie to you? Well, we'll look into it. Maybe we did, maybe you're right, but we don't think that we lied to you. So, and we would look into it. We would find what the issue was and we would fix it. If something said something was wrong, we did that again and again and again, to the point where people would start to realize that in hard times that we would be honest with them. And that is what I, want you to see in this opportunity right now is we have had the greatest leadership test in history during the pandemic. What leaders are showing us they're amazing? What leaders are showing us that they're horrible? What leaders are showing us that they're really able to stand up and deliver greatness? We've seen that at the company level, at the state level, the national level. What businesses are taking advantage of the pandemic and overcharging to try to make a profit because people's luck is down? Or what companies are giving things away, not charging anything, and changing their factories to make respirators, for example? It's an incredible time. So I want to start to conclude the talking portion of this and move in the next few minutes to discussion. I start by saying research around organizations and teams and leaders has revealed that two factors need to exist for people to do great work: psychological safety and trust. And so when you think about how you're communicating, how you're structuring your business, how you're interacting with people, these two things should be at the center of what you want to achieve. For me to do my best work, I need to feel safe. I need to know that when I make a mistake, you're not going to kill me. You're not going to, fire me. I need to know that it's a safe place to do good work, that I can trust you, that you trust me and I trust you. And that takes time to build. And in the pandemic, we have a great time to do that. But in a world where we're not seeing each other a lot, that's a little more challenging. So how do you build psychological safety today in the pandemic? Well, number one, you talk to your people a lot more. You communicate much more frequently, and you ask about them, not their work. If you have a conversation with your people today, and the first thing you do is tell me about your results, tell me about your numbers, tell me about your work, I think that's a failed strategy. I think the first thing to do is, how are you? How's the family? Because we have more things at home we're worried about than ever before. And if you have young children and they're not in school, you got problems. If you have a sick parent, you got problems that are going to defocus you from doing work. So we need to know, is our worker okay? Is there anything we can do to help them? So that's one of the things that I hope that you're investing in right now, is being more intentional, asking, inquiring, gathering feedback, giving surveys, talking to them. What can we do to make you feel safer? What can we do to help you be more productive? In many organizations, we're used to a controlled workday, and now they have not been able to have a controlled workday because people have things they have to do during the day. Like if I have kids at home, I got to feed them. I can't be in meetings during lunch. I got to feed my kids. I can't do that. Or if I have, in the mornings and I have small kids at home, I got to get their computers up and I got to make sure the teacher's there and they're logged in because they don't know how to do it. Yeah. We've got more things that our employees have to worry about than ever before. So be mindful of that. And that's a great way for you to be able to build their trust and their loyalty. So in closing, and I'm excited to take questions from you in a few minutes, recognize what I said earlier. Crises are great times to build loyalty and play offense. Now's the time to communicate more, be active, grow the agility, look at the companies like Spotify and do that. And find ways of building a new model. If you're waiting to go back to the way it was, I think you're going to not succeed, because the way it was is never coming back. Everything's different. Everyone that works for your company sees the world differently now. Do you know what that is? Do you know how differently they're seeing it? And if you don't, you better start asking, because that's really important. And if Mexico and the labor force there is anything like the US, a lot of people are thinking of making changes, right? And that just depends. So I would be very, very active about that. Also, I want to tell you, if this is an interesting subject for you, if the conversation's been interesting for you, I just wrote a book about it. It just went up on Amazon last week. I'm super excited about it. It's How Do We Build a Better Model of Work? Some of the ideas are here, but I have many more in the book to help you, not only as an individual in your career, but as an organization. And I'm super excited about it. But feel free to reach me if you want. I have a TikTok channel, which I'll show you here, that you can find me. I also have a podcast, which I would love for you to subscribe to. My website, stevecadigan.com, does have a Spanish translation. There's actually many articles in Spanish about me because I've worked a lot in Mexico and Colombia and in Spain. So, but I would love to have you join me on TikTok and comment on some of my posts. So that leads us to me saying gracias and seeing if we have any preguntas and any questions. And I want to thank you all for tolerating my English when it's probably not nearly as good as my Spanish is not nearly as good as your Spanish. So, but yeah, let's open it up. And Claudia, maybe you want to help be the moderator here for anything.
Sure. Thank you so much, Steve. Let me tell you that your presentation was amazing. I love it. As soon as we finish, I'm going to go to Amazon to buy your book for
Yay.
sure.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if you want to open your microphones for some questions to Steve, or your cameras.
The first one's always the hard one. Okay, Abigail raised her hand.
Yep. Cari, go ahead.
Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. Thank you for this. This was very interesting. I have a question, but it's mainly about what's your position. I'm curious about what do you think about these kind of brands that punish their employees when they make comments or posts in social media?
About the company or
the company punishing their employees when they post against some politics or something like that regarding the brand they work in?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see both sides. I can see that there's a concern that a company would have about, if you work for us, we want you to be a good ambassador for us. And so I would be concerned, but I also think if you mute your employees, I think you run the risk of them not wanting to be there. So that's a dangerous strategy. If you were clear when you join, whoever you're recruiting, say, okay, we need to make you aware we're a highly visible company. And so we're not comfortable you representing your personal views on anything in social media. And this is usually happens at the executive level, right? Below that, I don't think companies should worry that much, because most people, when they're out there, are not saying, hi, I work at, this company and I'm saying this. It's just me. And people should have a right, honestly, to say what they want to say, where they want to say it, right? But if you chose and said, okay, I'm signing, these are the rules, for me to work here, I can't do that. And I've signed that when I've been executive in some places. But I can also understand, we shouldn't have the right to control the personal opinions of people and where they do that. You know what I'm saying? So I can see it's not an easy answer. It depends, right?
Thank you.
I would like to have a company that anyone can say anything that they want to, and then it's my choice to hire the right people. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Steve. And Cari, another question? Pilar, go ahead, please.
Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. My question is, how much weight do you think there is the self-motivation of the employee versus the motivation that you could get him through the culture in the organization? How much weight do you think it is important to balance there?
I think for me, I strongly, I need the self-motivation. I need it there. Like if someone's not motivated, I mean, there could be a reason why they're not motivated, but getting a coach, that's helpful. But I'm looking for, and by the way, like the soft skills today to me are the power skills. When we say soft, it's not a good word because it makes it look like it's weak. And hard skills strong. No, hard skills I can teach. Soft skills, communication, empathy, leadership, listening. I can't, it's harder to teach those. Motivation is one of those ones. So, and sometimes motivation comes with energy. And if someone doesn't have that, I don't know that I can coach that. So there's some things where I want to coach, but I do think, honestly, Pilar, today, I think we all need coaches. It's a complicated world, it really is. And this is why I've been advising a few very interesting CEOs. One woman recently started a peer-to-peer mentoring. I want to mentor. You go to the site and it says who you are, what you do, what kind of attributes you're looking for in a mentor, and tries to find you people. And then you meet a few people and then you can choose whether you have the mentor or not. I think this is something that we all need because the future is very complicated right now. I could have gone, I could have scared everyone a lot more in this presentation than I did. I'm trying to be optimistic and hopeful, but there's a lot to worry about. And I think Reid Hoffman was very famous for saying, he goes, today, who you know is almost more important than what you know. And I think he means so that when you face a challenge or a problem, you have someone to call, right? And so that's, I think, at the root of some of what you're saying. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Steve and Pilar. Another question? I have another question for you, and this is for me.
Okay.
To know more about the AQ. I never heard before about this term.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that this is a new notion that, and there's several researchers that when I was writing my book around, how an organization could be built or what skills will really be necessary, there's a growing body of researchers, particularly in some of the big universities in the US, that are saying this is something that's real, your adaptability quotient, which is tied to the growth mindset. And I really think this is something we're going to measure. Recruiters are going to measure how quickly you can adapt. How can you handle, like, a calm situation becomes stressful? How do you deal with that? Or you're on a small team and now you're in a big team. How do you handle that? Or you're in a big team, now you're a small team. Or you had a boss and now you don't have a boss. You have a virtual team. Can you handle working in different environments and thriving there? We're going to find ways. And I think we're going to learn how to express that skill better in our CVs and resumes and LinkedIn profiles. So I haven't seen it yet, because a lot of people, when I tell them about that, say, well, how do I know it when I see it? I say, well, I don't know yet exactly, but I'm starting. Or
measure.
Right. Or measure it. Exactly.
How I can measure.
Right. So someone said something one time, which I think is a really good one, was, if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. So what does it look like? And it's a very big, squishy topic, adaptability. And then what you think is adaptable, it's like talking about culture. What is culture? If we asked everyone on the webinar right now, write a definition of culture, we would have 20 different definitions, right? It's a little squishy. But I think adaptability may be easier for us to codify than culture,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we don't have more questions, no? Okay.
Claudia, maybe I have a question. Thank you.
Okay, Oscar, go ahead.
Steve, what are your top tips for an organization who wishes to build a digital transformation and a different culture? Maybe 3 or 4 top tips for implementing in the next 20 days or maybe 2 months. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Great question, Oscar. And thank you for asking it. I will tell you that the biggest mistake that I see organizations make in a digital transformation is being overly obsessed with the technology and not starting with the human dimension of the problem you're solving. For you to have a digital transformation work, what needs to happen is people need to believe this is good for them. Okay. And most companies say, we're doing this because it's good for the company, but may not be good for you. That doesn't get people to want to change, right? If you say the future of digital transformation is about the robots and the technology. So what I would suggest that you do is really start the conversation with, hey, if I told you I could make your job more interesting, make it more strategic, and take away all the stuff you don't like doing, would that be interesting to you? And you go, yeah. Okay, that's digital transformation. If I told you that we could be more successful if we leverage some new tools and you're going to learn new skills and you're going to be more vital for the future, would you be interested? And they go, oh yeah. That's how I would do it. I wouldn't go, guess what? Next week, we got this we paid all this money for this new system and you're going to have to learn it. And when you do it that way, the employee hears, I'm going to lose my job. The robots are coming. Artificial intelligence is going to take over and I'm in trouble. And so I'm afraid. And when I'm afraid, I'm not psychologically safe. You see what I'm saying? So my top tips are, remember, we're solving a human issue here. We're not solving a technology issue. That's the biggest trap with digital transformation. And now you really got me all fired up here, Oscar, because think about the words digital transformation. When you hear those words, do you think beautiful ocean, a sunset, romance, red wine, love? No. When you hear digital transformation, you think cold, computer, no life, no heart, unfriendly, cold. That's the wrong language, right? We need a better language for digital transformation. I sort of like, what do we call it? Like human acceleration or human greatness. That's what we're trying to achieve here, right? And we're seducing ourselves. Like I get calls every day. Hey, Steve, we need to fix our recruiting. Can you tell us the system we should use? I go, do you know recruiting is about one human connecting with another? It's not about a system. Like you're looking at the problem the wrong way. And so this is why, when you get me started on some top tips of digital transformation, you're solving a human problem. You're not solving a technology problem. Technology is here to allow us to have a greater experience as humans. So that's my advice, Oscar. I hope that helps.
Yep. Thank you very much, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my pleasure. And we also have it at ISDE, just a little plug. That's the world that we're in, is trying to help organizations with digital transformation. And there's many people. We've got Fabian on the call here. We've got Jorge, many people here. We breathe, drink this, and we've seen all the mistakes that people can make, and we live to help people through that. It's because it's a very complex journey, but it's one, if you do it right, I think you could realize some really, really great benefits.
Thank you so much. Steve, I have one more question. Abby, do you have a question, Abigail? No? Okay. So I think that we don't have more questions. No tenemos más preguntas. Steve, thank you so much. No se vayan, todavía no terminamos. Los voy a dejar unos minutitos con Fabián Reyes.
Sorry.
¿Lista, Abby,
Sorry,
para tu pregunta?
could you hear me?
Sí.
Yes, I'm ready. Sorry. How can we change this mindset for our leaders and make them part of this, Steve?
If I knew the answer to that, I would be very, very rich. I get asked this question a lot. So listen, the way that I look at when I hear that question is, you don't have to, sometimes we should not wait for the leaders to change. You don't have to ask their permission. Like, let's just start doing it. And sometimes if they see the success, they will want to be a part of it. I would gravitate, if it's me and I'm in a company and I say I need to change, but some leaders they're not excited, they're scared. And some leaders are excited. I want to go find the leader or leaders who do want to change, who do want to do it. And then I want to get around them, you know? We have, I mean, it's human nature, Abby. It's human nature that we don't like to change. You know, it's like, think about your husband or your wife. Like, I want them to be loyal, faithful, love me always, be consistent, but I want a little spontaneity and a little spice too, but it has to be loyal. You know, we're complicated creatures, and sometimes the older we get, you know, it's harder for us to change. And this is the other thing that I'll say to you, which I've learned over the years. The people that have the hardest time to change are the people who built what you're changing, because it's part of them. And that sometimes it's the leaders who put in years of their life to build it the way it was. They feel safest doing that. So we have to try to, you know, understand that they need to, you know, they may need a little more time. So, you know, give them the benefit of that, but find the place to find the people who are open to the change, and start there, you know, is probably the best. And then don't wait for them. If there's things that you can do, then go for it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Y bueno, vamos, les voy a dejar unos minutitos con Fabián para que les platique un poquito más sobre qué hace Easy. Como saben, Easy es el host de esta masterclass, entonces los voy a dejar unos minutitos con Fabián para que les cuente qué hace Easy.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Buenas tardes. Gracias, Steve. Gracias a todos. ¿Cómo están? Un placer. Un placer conocerles. Pues muy rápidamente queremos platicarles qué hacemos en Easy, cómo les podemos ayudar. No les llevamos más de 5 minutos. Simplemente queremos enseñarles qué hacemos nosotros acá, qué hacemos con compañías, qué hacemos con las personas. Prácticamente Easy es un lugar, es un centro de aceleración digital, es una escuela de negocios que puede ayudarte a ti a nivel personal o puede ayudar a tu compañía a cambiar en esta transformación digital. Nacimos en Madrid, tenemos oficinas en Barcelona, en París, en Shanghái. Obviamente desde México vemos todo el hub de Latinoamérica, nuestros bootcamps con profesionales en Silicon Valley, en el Real Colegio Complutense en Harvard, como bootcamps que tenemos. Prácticamente somos más de 20,000 profesionales formados los que tenemos en ISDI, que han probado el tema de la transformación, han vivido la transformación digital a nivel personal y a nivel de sus empresas también. Tenemos mucha experiencia cambiando empresas, desde en la parte estratégica hasta la parte operativa, que prácticamente ahí es donde los invitaría a que conocieran un poco más de lo que podemos hacer ad hoc en cada una de las empresas. No tenemos una fórmula especial para todas las empresas, más bien hacemos especialmente la fórmula de esas compañías que se quieren transformar. Las analizamos bien, queremos darles un programa que sea activo para ustedes y que obviamente les vaya a servir. No tenemos absolutamente nada ya hecho y lo entregamos a destajo, sino nos sentamos con ustedes y los cuidamos para que la transformación sea la transformación digital sea muy específica y también que no le pegue a la cultura de las empresas, que también cuidamos ese punto. Tenemos más de 200 startups creadas también en el mundo con Easy. Y también, ¿por qué no? Nuestras ofertas de empleo publicadas, en donde ustedes también pueden entrar para encontrar a ese experto o a esa persona que necesitan que lidere o que cubra o que empiece a pivotar la transformación digital en sus empresas. Y yo siempre platico de esto, y cuando tengo alguna oportunidad de platicar con la gente, les hago esta pregunta: si creen que tienen las herramientas necesarias para afrontar la transformación digital, en dónde están, en dónde se sienten como personas o en dónde se sienten como empresas en este aspecto. Si sienten que están creciendo en estos momentos, si creen que están pivotando algunas cosas, si creen que están calibrando la transformación o si creen que están sobreviviendo a la transformación digital. En cualquiera de estas cuatro yo les invitaría a que platicáramos en algún momento y que viéramos un plan para cada uno de ustedes y cómo les podremos ayudar en estas opciones y que tú te hagas una persona future proof. Easy lo que te hace es eso. Easy lo que te ayuda es a ver cuál es tu camino, qué es lo que vas a cambiar, qué es lo que tienes que desaprender, qué es lo que tienes que volver a aprender o qué es lo que únicamente tienes que conocer a ti o a tus equipos. Tenemos dos opciones, ya sea en el lado de las personas con los programas ejecutivos o las maestrías, inclusive para las nuevas generaciones, todos aquellos que están saliendo de universidades y que quieren hacer un camino en el mundo digital, también lo hacemos. O si quieres cambiar tu empresa y quieres platicar de algún programa en específico, algún rubro en donde quieras hacer experto a tus equipos, ya sea en temas ágiles, en temas de tecnología para negocios, en emprendimiento, en data, por ejemplo, talento y organización, que, bueno, Steve es uno de nuestros líderes dentro de las formaciones, por supuesto, y las tendencias que existirán en el futuro, ¿no? Hay que estar a la vanguardia, pero sobre todo hay que estar preparados. La transformación digital no es únicamente algo que se tenga que hacer, como dijo Steve, con los sistemas, sino empieza desde las personas. Y las personas que no entiendan esto, pues naturalmente sufrirán bastante en el camino. Y pues bueno, no quiero llevarme mucho tiempo. Si ustedes tienen alguna duda, quieren platicar en algún momento de transformación, quieren que hagamos algo para ustedes, para sus empresas, podemos platicar. Viene mi correo, es freyes@isd.education, o mi teléfono celular también, en donde me pueden mandar un WhatsApp y les contestamos. Les podemos mandar el programa, podemos hacer un assessment, podemos hacer prácticamente lo que ustedes necesiten para poderlos acompañar y que nos encantaría que de la mano de nuestros súper expertos, que tenemos más de 700 a nivel mundial, podamos platicar de la transformación digital, ¿no? Y pues bueno,